everyone. Welcome to Midweek Mobility. I'm Claudia Challoner, Doctor of Physical Therapy with Movement RX. And today we are going to talk about the lunge archetype. So this whole month of December is going to be dedicated for the lunge archetype. So I'm just going to talk a little bit today about specifically the lunge and the benefits of that and some different techniques in order to get your lunge in a better position. So there's several benefits for completing a lunge, and one of them is balance and coordination. Of course, we're doing that unilateral work that's going to require that coordination as well as balance. So with CrossFit, we don't do a whole lot of unilateral work, and that's going to be really beneficial in incorporating some unilateral work into our accessory work there. Function. So we think about that lunge archetype. We have this extension and this internal rotation of our leg. Okay, so this is going to be beneficial for transitioning over into our walking and to our running. So the next one is mobility practice. So into our lunge position, we need good hip extension. So if we have super tight hip flexors, that's going to create some issues there and not allow us to get to that good position. So if we can practice some mobility techniques to get into that hip extension and then follow it up with some lunge progressions, that's definitely going to help us keep that mobility. The next one is core stability. So holding in a front rack, let's say walking lunge, definitely requires some core tightness there. So that's great work if you're trying to do some core stability there. And the fifth one is reduced spinal loading. And this is when we are doing maybe a dumbbell walking lunge. Obviously not if we're doing a back rack position walking lunge or something like that. This is when we're going to be holding the weight down below, kind of decompressing that spine, another exercise to still do some strengthening without loading that spine as much as a back squat would. So just talking a little bit about the appropriate position of our lunge. If we're just going into a forward lunge position, so there's several different variations of a lunge. We can go forward, we can go backward, we can also do a lateral lunge. We're just going to kind of focus on the forward lunge today. So as we step out into that lunge position, I do not want to shift my weight forward, okay? If my knee comes over my toe, I'm going to be creating a lot of extra shearing force through my knee, okay? And then I'm not going to be using the muscles appropriately that we're trying to strengthen in this position. So here, and you can have a look at my back leg, I have that extension as well as this internal rotation. I don't want to have my toe out and open up that hip. So think about the split jerk position. We have that extension as well as that internal rotation, that toe is in, okay? From this position, I'm going to come straight down, okay, controlling it, that eccentric loading all the way down, and then coming up with it. So notice my torso's upright, I'm engaging my abdominals, I'm not allowing this overextension of my spine. I have everything nice and tight as I come down and then up. So coming from a forward angle, if I am in my lunge position here, so don't notice that my knee is coming out in that position. So I don't want my knee to come in and collapse in. Again, that's a lot of extra stress through our MCL and our ACL for that. So I want to be driving that knee out, making sure my glutes are squeezed, abs are tight, and then coming up into that position. So those are just a few basic tips for the lunge position that I see a lot with patients and athletes that come to me that are having difficulty with that. So now we're going to go into a few progressions with our lunge. A lot of people have problems with that glute activation, so we're going to give a little exercise for that. A little progression onto our banded lunge, and then a mobility technique to help with that hip flexor length. The mobility technique is just going to be a banded hip flexor stretch. So you're going to find a band here. We're going to loop our hip up into it. That banded leg is going to go back. Okay, I'm opening up that front part of my hip. Want to make sure that your abs are engaged. I'm keeping the glutes squeezed, okay? And I'm not overextending at that spine, okay? Have everything nice and tight. You can hang out here for a couple of minutes. You can even do an overhead stretch, stretching that arm on that side, up and over, stretching that complete fascia there. So after you've worked your mobility there, we can go into a progression of a banded lunge. So if you've been working on some lunges and those are looking good, we can go into a kind of resisted lunge. The band is going to go just above the knee here. You want it about the same height of your knee, attached on. So same setup as we were talking about before with the appropriate positioning. So this is more like a split squat, not necessarily a lunge, walking lunge. So we're going to go ahead and set up in our split squat position. We're coming down, driving that knee out against the band, okay? And then back up. Driving that knee out, keeping everything nice and tight, and back up. So doing like a couple of sets of 10 on each side there will really help with that glute activation. Now going into the next exercise is going to be more for that glute max. A lot of people have issues of really using their glutes efficiently with our squatting, and a lot of times it's because they're weak. So we're going to get a barbell here and a bench. So I'm a little bit shorter, so the setup for this will kind of help you shorter ladies out there, or shorter guys, help with your setup there. So the bar is going to go just below my hip bone there. So I'm not having it up in my stomach. It's sitting just below my hip bone. I'm going to prop my elbows up, okay? I'm just lifting myself up with my elbows, and then I'm going to reposition my feet, grab a hold of the bar here. So my shoulder blades are on the bench, getting that full, almost all the way down to the ground there, because we want that full range of motion. And then I'm going to extend my hips up. Okay, so I'm really squeezing those glutes in the back there, get everything engaged, and then back down, and then up. So really enforce that glute activation at the top there. So again, doing a couple of sets of 10 to 20 a couple of times a week will really help become more efficient with your squatting and your deadlifts and other lifts as well. So thanks again for joining us, and see you guys next week.